Hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward.
Hard work, hard work, hard work.
Fall in.
What's good? What's good? What's good? What's going on with y'all this morning? It's a beautiful morning. It's your boy, Trey the Commish, and you're rocking with your favorite vets on the next First Formation Morning Sports Talk. So, as we know, if you've been tapping into your sports, we know plenty has popped off. You got the NBA is just weeks away, less than a month away, less than 30 days away. If you got that countdown going on till you get to the round ball, college basketball is on its way. Enthralled in the most when it comes down to the National Conference of Athletic Associations football is all going down. NFL concluded its week 3 yesterday with 2 games. So we're going to get into all that most definitely as we get closer and closer to the end of the season. First off, let's tap in reference to some WNBA action. As we know, 4 teams remain in the tournament for who's going to determine to be the champions for the champion directly for the Women's National Basketball Association. Of course, that's the Connecticut Sun and the New York Liberty, who faced off in their game 1, in which the Sun was victorious, taking a 78-63 game point for them. And again, the Las Vegas Aces and the Dallas Wings faced off. Las Vegas was able to walk away with a 97-83 win that basically puts them in the position to face off again come Sunday, in which they play their game. No, correction. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. They'll be facing off tonight for their game 2. Of course, it's a 5-game series. So in-state Friday will bring game 3. Of course, Sunday a game 4 if it is needed for them to continue on. College football, right? So I was a little remiss, I guess you could say, as when I looked at the standings and the new rankings when it came out for college football. Of course, just to go through for our keeping in our tradition, staying in the top 25 for the most part. From last week, Michigan handled Rutgers easily with a 31-7 win. Florida State knocked off Clemson 31-24. Oklahoma knocked out Cincinnati 20-6 in a hard-fought battle. The Utah Utes had a tough game against the UCLA Bruins. That was number 11 versus 22, in which a pick 6 early in the game basically seemed to be the difference once it was all said and done. Again, UCLA falls to Utah 14-7. Number 15, Ole Miss fell to number 13, Alabama by a score of 24-10. University of Duke knocked off UConn 41-7. 20th ranked Miami beat Temple 41-7. Tennessee, ranked 23, was able to take care of UTSA by the score of 45-14. LSU knocked off Arkansas by the score of 34-31. The University of Florida took care of business. Probably most likely moving up in the rankings. 22-7. University of Georgia handled UAB easily 41-21. University of Texas, third-ranked University of Texas, take care of business versus Baylor 38-6. Number 8, Ohio State knocks off number 9, Notre Dame, 17-14 in the last second touchdown. Unfortunately, there was a situation to where the defensive unit of Notre Dame was not together. They did not get get the formation right. One player was missing. The coach decided not to try to rush a hurry a player out during that time frame with the giving them the opportunity to potentially get a first down and put them on the half-inch line. Just decided to go with it. I reckon that Ohio State recognized the miscue and went ahead and basically ran the ball directly to where that person was missing at, and in-state was able to pull a walk-off touchdown and keep Notre Dame from upsetting. Another battle of ranks was Iowa, 24 ranked Iowa over 7 ranked Penn State, in which Penn State was victorious 31-0. Number 17 North Carolina dispatched Pitt 41-24. 8th ranked University of Washington at the time beats Cal by the score of 59-32. Then ranked 19 Colorado was handily taken care of versus number 10 ranked Oregon 42-6, and the USC Trojans had a hard-fought game initially before they were able to dispatch and take care of Arizona State by the score of 28-42. Of course, after all that being said, the not too much shifting in the top 25 for the most part. Of course, we did have some teams fall out as expected with their losses. At one point, remember, there was 8 of the 25 teams in the top 25 were all from the Pac-12. With the losses this weekend, of course, versus one another, that has changed, in which 2 of the 8 teams have fallen out. That being the highly vaulted initial plays from Colorado, currently at the top 25 for the second time this season. Of course, initially not starting the top 25, getting the top 25 after their upset of TCU. Now they're back, waiting to get back in as they have a game coming up against top ranked USC. But from the bottom to the top, we have Fresno coming in at number 25. University of Colorado of Kansas gets back into the top 25, picking up for where they are last year. Currently at 24. At number 23, University of Missouri. At 22, Florida moves up 4 spots, 3 spots correctly, from 25 to 22. University of Tennessee back in at number 21. Ole Miss not falling too far there at the 20 ranked at this point. Oregon State ranked 19. At number 18, University of Miami. At number 17, University of Duke University. At number 16, the Wazoo Washington State Cougars continue their trek. At number 15, University of North Carolina. Ohio State slowly but surely moves up the rankings, currently at number 14. At number 13, LSU. At 12, Alabama. At number 11, Notre Dame, just dropping 2 spots. Then we get into the top 10. So interesting enough, as we stated, I know you didn't hear many teams except for 2 teams out of the Pac-12 that was currently in the top 25. A total of 6 teams are currently sitting in the top 25 for the Pac-12. Why do we point out the Pac-12? One, I am a USC Trojan fan, but not that particular. It also comes from the fact that, as we know, the Pac-12 has basically been decimated as between starting this next year. All the teams except for 2, being Oregon State and Washington State, no longer are in the Pac-12, and they will be moving on to other conferences, whether that be the Big 10, the Big 12, or the ACC. The other 10 teams in the Pac-12 currently have been divvied up into those 3 conferences to basically have a stake to make it a little more competitive and have an opportunity to build on what their programs has built over the course of these decades. But in any case, currently, of the 16s are in the that are in the top 25 from the Pac-12, 4 of those 16s are nestled in the top 10 of the national rankings. Of course, at number 10, Utah sits at number 10. University of Oregon sits at number 9. University of Southern California, USC, sits at number 8. And a new front runner in the Pac 12 has emerged, getting one first place vote, and that's the University of Washington, as they sit at number 7 to finish out the rest of the top 5 on top 6 in the top 10. Penn State is number 6, Florida State at 5, at 4 University of Ohio State University. At number 3, Texas, 2, Michigan, and University of Georgia continues to sit at the number 1 spot with 55 first place votes issue. So, of course, that's going to be different, as we know, as I stated before. Colorado will have another opportunity for the most part to get back possibly into the top 25, to where this weekend they will host USC in Colorado, in Boulder. So it may have an opportunity for, if Colorado is able to put together a game plan that will be successful, to knock off the Trojans. I'm very sure that would drop the Trojans out the top 10 and make it harder for them, as well as get Colorado back into the top 25. But of course, that remains to be seen. More to come later on this week if we look at the next slate of games in college football. Moving on, a little NBA talk before we get into the NFL. Before I get up out of here, just want to make sure I got on to chop it up with y'all this morning, give a little something to speak about. So, for the most part, when you look at it, as I said, NBA is literally 3 weeks away before we get back into that season. And yet, here we are still having a situation to where we have the slightest idea where the beloved Damian Lillard was going to play. It currently has came to the attention that there's a new front runner when we're talking about a potential home for Damian Lillard. That new front runner, of course, none other than the Toronto Raptors. So when you look at it, Toronto Raptors have some intriguing pieces looking to be potentially put together to possibly land Damian Lillard. As we know, of course, it is up to the organization to where they choose to put him at some degree. Different from that when Kawhi Leonard was traded and wasn't looking to go anyone except for where he wanted to go, traded to Toronto, and was able to leave the following year after winning the lone championship for Toronto. Damian Lillard's situation is a little bit different. Currently, he sits with 3 years on his contract, where he's looking to make $45 million next year. So, with that being said, a couple teams have wanted to make a way for Damian Lillard, or have been interested in obtaining the services of Damian Lillard. That's, of course, Miami, now Toronto, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, the Philadelphia 76ers, and, of course, the Chicago Bulls. Of course, Dame wants to go to a team to where he can make a stake to be victorious. He's doesn't want to be connected where he's basically like a plug and play player and they already have excellence there and making that. Of course, that main team being his home team, of Golden State, to where they already have enough firepower there. It would just be taking candy from a baby. He would like to preferably go to cut his teeth in the conference, or in hence the the Miami Heat, to where teaming up with a player like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo would be a little more suitable, to where it's not just putting all the eggs in the basket like presumably they do in the West a lot of times. So, of course, like I say, enter the Toronto Raptors, to where they have a plethora of talent and able to sit up and make some moves to land a player of Damian Lillard's stature. Of course, in doing that, they will have to give up some talent. They have a pool to pick from, as far as Pascal Siakam, 2-time All-Pro NBA player, Scotty Barnes, former Rookie of the Year, newly acquired player Grady Dick, a 6'8" sharpshooter from Kansas. And a couple of other players in which he has the opportunity to choose from. Abenoji, who is up and coming. So there's talent in Portland. In Toronto that Portland might be able to finesse and get that talent. Of course, if you take in consideration, maybe not, because what Miami offered them for Damian Lillard was, of course, Tyler Hero and 2 first-round picks, in which they actually scoffed at. Honestly, that wasn't enough for Portland. Now here we come again. But in state, they always can keep Damian Lillard in house and just let him, even one, take it upon himself not to play, or two, find or him play and trying to see where it goes. So that going on, like I said, a couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to that tip off, we'll be investing more time into the NBA, going from there. But of course, where we know there was plenty going on just this week in the NFL. So there's a plethora of injuries currently that are in place. Unfortunately, taking some is going to be rough on a couple of people's waiver wires that I know, in those fantasy football heads that are out there. In some aspect, to where now people are going to get an opportunity to kind of like will and deal, make some moves, or even start to walk up their standings, due to the fact that there's no these players are going to be missing, and some are coming back, some aren't coming back. Of course, who you might ask, who exactly am I speaking of? Where do you want to start? Of course, as we know, people like Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins are currently out. Now we add additionally the the Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Michael Williams has been diagnosed with a torn ACL. So now he's out the rest of the season, as they were able to win their game versus the Minnesota Vikings by the score of 28-24, in which uh, the Chargers are able to go to 1-2 on the season. The Minnesota Vikings are at a 0-3 start this season. Of course, looking at it, Justin Herbert was 4 of 47 for 405 yards, 3 touchdowns. Joshua Kelly carried the ball 11 times, 12 yards. Justin Herbert 2 times for 11 yards himself. Keenan Allen, 18 receptions for 215 yards on 20 targets. Mike Williams, before he went out, 7 of 121 for 1 touchdown. Josh Palmer was 4 for 66 with a touchdown on 7 targets. Gerald Everett, 6 for 30 on 6 targets. And Quentin Johnson, 2 for 10 in his 3 targets. Not bad. Another game in which, honestly, when you take a look at it, Kirk Cousins doesn't have the best of games, but his games aren't that bad either. Of course, but these numbers don't necessarily speak to that. But he was 32 for 50, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Alexandra Madison, 20 carries for 93 yards. Ty Chandler was 3 for 27. We know Cam Akers is there, but he has not been instituted into the offense yet. He may get a chance coming up on this coming week, in week 4, finally get a chance to make his debut. Justin Jefferson not having that season yet to where it matches that, and this to taking Devontae Adams off that shelf, in which is seen as being one of the top receivers in the league. However, there is another receiver that is burning up the waves, and which we're going to get to. But of course, Justin Jefferson, 7 receptions for 149 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson, 8 receptions for 78 yards. Jordan Addison, 6 receptions for 52 yards. KJ Osborne, 1 reception, 36 yards, and the touchdown. Alexander Madison was 5 for 32, all 7 targets, and CJ Ham 1 for 7. So, of course, when you take a look at this, it's not looking too well for Minnesota. I don't. Does their schedule get easier up and coming? Schedule get easier? It's just one of those. I think it's just one of those situations to where you just got to pick your choices. As we know, we're getting closer and closer to that time to where in that time and where there's teams are going to start to get caught slipping. Teams are going to be put in positions due to roster situations. So it remains to see how it all going to end up playing out. So right now, 0-3 Minnesota. I don't think they're going to sit there long. Honestly, like I said, I don't think they're going to be that bad off. They've been in games. It just hasn't been in their cards. But going forth, of course, we know there's going to be more to be seen. But it doesn't get in the. You would think it wouldn't get easy. We're talking about Minnesota, but of course, it doesn't get easier for the likes of the Los Angeles Chargers, who, like you said, they just happened to play another team that didn't have a winning record. I mean, didn't have a win on their in their column, just as they didn't at the beginning of this. Now they have won because they got the dub. But of course, in that they lose Mike Williams, who is a very integral part of their offense. Basically, Pools is a person that can go get it when they're even one locking down. Keenan Allen or two when Allen is cooking, and they decide to go and they start to roll the coverage over to Allen. That leaves Williams one-on-one, in which he is able to make a difference. Now he's out for the season, expected to be back by next training season. Unfortunate situation for the Los Angeles Chargers. Speaking to another team that's on that side, of course, we see you got a chance to catch the Las Vegas Raiders match up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, in which it was a close game for the most part. It had certain spurts. In this situation, current starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, Jimmy Garoppolo, is out now with in concussion protocol. If you watch the game, he was taking a beating and getting up. He did take a hit at one point, got up 2 plays later through a touchdown to Devontae Adams. But once it was stated after the game, it was stated that he had been put in concussion protocol. And now, what's going on, Mari? So you said the Vikings turn the ball over too much, and that secondary is major issues. If they can't beat the Panthers this week, the Vikings will start 0-5 because they are not looking to beat. So you know what? In a regular world or any other time, Maurice, that would be so true, bro. I would completely agree with you. But what we have seen is who expected, in which we're going to get to later. And I know there's Cowboy haters out there, but let's just keep it 100. The Cowboys is expected to do huge things. Who would expect of all teams, the Arizona Cardinals, to knock off the Dallas Cowboys? And which is interesting because the Arizona Cowboys play the San Francisco 49ers this weekend. And then the San Francisco 49ers go home and defend their home turf against the Dallas Cowboys, who lost to the Arizona Cardinals just a couple of weeks before. Almost 2 teams that mirror one another. So it's crazy. But to say that basically, Maurice, is that anything can happen. But true enough, I'm going to say it now. I don't expect the Minnesota Vikings, even in their current state, to lose to the Carolina Panthers. Just point blank. Now, however, on the flip side of that, I don't expect the Kansas City Chiefs to lose to the Minnesota Vikings the week after. But anything can happen, honestly. It can go either way. Vikings can tear off 2 quick wins with what is expected to be a win in Carolina and turn around and get a upset win in Kansas City. Or the Panthers can get that dub in versus the Vikings, and then turn around. The Vikings go lose to Kansas City and start the season off 0-5. To start looking for some reprieve at the quarterback position, because it might be a Kirk Cousins situation to why they can't get it done. No telling. So of course that's more to come. I'm very sure there's plenty of, like I said at the beginning of the season, right? I had a epiphany. I was wondering what would be the path for Caleb Williams. Like if he came out, who would need a quarterback to draft a quarterback? And now you're starting to see all these teams are starting to be needing a quarterback. You probably need to bring in a quarterback to be groomed in New York, in the Jets quarterback room. We're starting to see it in Minnesota, to where they need a quarterback or someone to play along with a couple of other organizations. Is it too early to say that the Chicago Bears are in need of a quarterback after putting them in the same position with as San Francisco, going ahead and moving on from their number 3 pick from 3 years ago? It's all interesting at this point. So agreed 100%. They shouldn't lose to the Panthers, but if they go 0-5, Cousins might be on the move. I think Cousins is going to be on the move in any case, Maurice. I just think I'm glad that the San Francisco 49ers dodged that bullet, because I remember what was 5-6 years ago, it was a huge conversation that Kirk Cousins was supposed to be in San Francisco, but he was kept on getting extended in he kept on getting extended in Washington till they finally let him go, and he became one of the first players to sign it was like $82 million at the time, but it was a fully guaranteed contract. And then here we are now. Kirk Cousins hasn't really moved the needle much since, although they did have a great year. Shout out to my man Eric Smalls last year, my frat Zach Styles. But here we are once again, and he's not getting it done. The Cards, Vikings, Jets, and Raiders all need QBs. So I think with the fact that Kyler Murray hasn't really got any burn this year due to the injury last year, he's going to get a reprieve. But definitely the Jets, I think the Raiders are basically sitting on. I think what the Raiders signed, Jimmy Garoppolo, 3 years, $72 million, something like that. I think he's going to get a chance to play that out. I think he gets 3 years, and then and then they let him go, or they allow him to walk and go ahead somewhere else, depending on what they're doing. It's funny how the whole Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr situation is going to continue to be played, because Derek Carr was started there 9 years. He owns a plethora of the records, even first or second when it comes to the passing records there in Raider Nation. But I know it's a lot of Raider fans out there that's not pleased with what Jimmy Garoppolo is doing, and probably would love to have Carr back if given that opportunity. But going still, staying with the Raiders, of course, they faced off against the Pittsburgh Steelers and fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers by the score of 18-23. Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams are a pretty nice tandem. He was taking some hits. He was getting pounded. He was getting knocked around for real. I feel bad for Jimmy G, especially what he did for San Francisco. But I seen in one of the San Francisco chat rooms, I see to where they said at least he's not in San Francisco doing that stuff, overthrowing passes, miscues, not being able to finish games. It's unfortunate. But Jimmy Garoppolo, 28 of 44 for 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 4 sacks for 31 yards. Of course, Kenny Pickett on the opposite side of the ball, not too much better, but defense wins ball games, and Pittsburgh has a hellacious defense. Kenny Pickett was 16 for 28, 35 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 sack for 7 yards. Their rushing attack, Najee Harris, 19 carries for 65 yards. Jaylen Warren was 8 for 29. Pickett had 11 himself off 3 carries. When you look at Josh Jacobs for the Raiders, right? Josh Jacobs, leading rusher last year. Josh Jacobs this year is a shell of a hill. Very dismal. It really took the second half for him to even start to get anything, as he was only, I think he was in single digits in the rushing attack initially, but he did end up finishing 17 carries for 62 yards on the night. Receiving from the Raiders, it was a heavy dose of Jimmy G to Devontae Adams, and then of course Jacoby Myers got in there where he could fit in. Devontae Adams 13 receptions for 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, all on 20 targets. Jacoby Myers was 7 of 85 for 87 receptions for 85 yards. Jacobs was 3 of 18. Hunter Renfrow caught 2 for 17. DeAndre Carter was 1 of 16, and then Amir Abdullah was 2 receptions for 16 yards. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, the black and yellow put up George Pickens 4 receptions for 75 yards on 6 targets. Calvin Austin, the third, the speedster, 2 receptions for 72 yards with a touchdown. Pat Frymouth with 3 receptions for 41 yards with the touchdown as well. Najee Harris, and Jalen Warren was 3 receptions for 23 yards. Allen Robinson, the second, 4 receptions for 24 yards. All in-state, allowing, and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense did the rest, putting up the numbers in order to knock off the Las Vegas Raiders by the score of 18-23. Jimmy Garoppolo currently, like I said, out. Who will they run to next? The Las Vegas Raiders. They have one of 2 people that's in their quarterback room still. That being, I think it's O'Callaghan, their rookie, or of course the 14-year veteran and Brian Hoyer, who has been with Josh McDaniels back and forth throughout his career. Of course, mainly in New England. So give an opportunity to be from someone that they're familiar with. That could be the go-to, or they will start with the with their rookie. So unless Jimmy G can clear protocol and make his way into back into the starting lineup, but like Maurice is just saying, he's taking a beating, an unprecedented beating. Like they're on him. It's something. It's one thing if it was just one hit that like he took and that put him in concussion protocol, but the simple fact that he was getting smacked around all night long, I think 5 sacks or 4 sacks or something like that on the night. I just say 4 sacks. 4 sacks on the night, and one of them was a direct hit. Really speaks to the fact of Jimmy's going to be in trouble. What's good, Darren? So you're 3-0 currently. They're 3-0 currently. However, it's an early season, and there's still a couple more games going on. You're one of 2. No, you're one of 3. Correction. You're one of 3 undefeated individuals, in which one of the 3 undefeated individuals I end up playing this weekend, in which I'm hoping to dispatch a dub and knock them from the undefeated ranks and then come back. Although I missed my chance with you, I am one of your 3 dubs. So I commend you, Darren, on your early start. But as we all know, it's not how you start the race, it's how you finish. And we still got a little time. I still got some, with the help of some people, I got some time to catch you still. In any case, going on with next game I like to talk about, is it over for correct? You putting up numbers. I'll give you that. Some of y'all is lucky. Like these players is unprecedented. And of course, Darren is a huge Miami Dolphins fan, so he's probably got a team with Dolphin players in which the Miami Dolphins have been on a tangent. One of few undefeated teams, of course, when you look at it. Actually, let me see. I know at the beginning of the week we started with 9 undefeated teams. AP, what are you talking about, bruh? Hey, you chose the players. You chose Monster. Well, Marson put up almost 50 points himself. He got half your points. Monster, shout out to Raheem Monster, former 49er. Basically, Miami Dolphins are the 49ers, 49ers East. But in any case, starting out with I think 9 teams undefeated at the beginning of this. Only one team played. Only one team set of undefeated teams played. But now there's only 3 undefeated teams in the NFL currently, that being the San Francisco 49ers. Yay, yay. The other two being the Miami Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles, as Philadelphia was able to take care of the other undefeated team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the course of the weekend. So now we see where it goes from there. How's it going to? How would it end up playing out? Is there when will the 1972 Miami Dolphins be able to pop their bottles again? As they are the only team to ever go undefeated in the whole season, from start to finish, all the way from the beginning of the season to the Super Bowl dub. He said Najee Harris is a wasted pick. Give it time, AP, man. Give it time. I feel like I got some wasted picks on my squad too, but give it time in any case. But going back into like talking about these scores, right? I was almost got off track, but I was going to go with that vaunted Miami offense. But I'm going to pause it for a second. I'm going to go and get to back where I was talking, right? What are the New York Jets going to do when you have an All-Pro, Hall of Fame, Super Bowl winning quarterback that sits and watches and digests your game and watches his team that he wants blood, sweat, and tears for now fall off and being massacred and beat up and down the field in every asset. Great defense, but the offense is 2 times as less than that, seemingly. What do you do? Joe Namath, Hall of Fame quarterback, Joe Namath from the New York Jets, basically says that Zach Wilson is not it. He is not the answer. He should not be the starting quarterback. They should be something different. He is even calling for the heads of Robert Saleh and the GM, stating that they don't know what they're doing. Is this just a man get out my yard type play, old quarterback that's seeing, or is he telling the truth? Can the New York Jets turn it around? Is there anyone out there remotely that they can take on that could bring in to be like, you know what, we're going to do better? Joe Namath continues to state that it is a silly move, I'm paraphrasing, for Coach Robert Saleh to continue to go forth with the efforts of trying to say, hey, we're going to just stay with Zach Wilson. He's like, it's horrible. He quartered out Zach Wilson, giving up on the play, as he stated, when he fell and he ended up taking a sack when he got touched. It's like there was nothing. He had no urgency to try to get up, to get out, to get the play going, to get up to see if he could even get some yards, get back to the line of scrimmage, anything. He's like, he just failed. He gave up on the play. In that game, of course, Zach Wilson, 18 for 36, 157 yards, 3 sacks for 24 yards. Dalvin Cook acquisition starting to make us wonder and side-eye, why did Minnesota really let this guy go? 18 carries for 18 yards. Breece Hall, 12 carries for 18 yards. Just not looking good for that vaunted quarterback running back room that we was looking at, like, oh, side-eyeing, doesn't look too hot right now. Is it because of the lack in the quarterback position for the most part, to where it's diminishing the run game, to where there's nothing, all they could do is prep and prepare? That's 20 carries for 36 yards. Garrett Wilson, last year's rookie of the year, 5 receptions for 48 yards. Alan Lazard was 3 for 39. Tyler Conklin pulled in 3 for 26. Randall Cobb 1 for 12, and that was a late one, although he did have an opportunity at the ricochet and the Hail Mary attempt that where he would have walked into the end zone had he been prepared and had his body set right. Of course, his weight was shifted, so he went back to get to the ball. He couldn't get there in time in the last seconds. Mac Jones, 15 for 29, 201 yards, 1 touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott carried the weight, 16 carries for 80 yards. Ramondre Stevenson, 19 carries for 59 yards. Mac Jones got 13 out of his 4 carries. Farrell Brown was 2 for 71 with a touchdown on his 2 targets. Kendrick Bourne, 4 for 46. Devontae Parker pulled in 2 receptions for 19 yards. Mike Gesicki, 1 for 18, 2 for 17 from the other tight end, Hunter Henry, 2 for 17. Ezekiel Elliott, 1 for 7. Juju Smith-Schuster 1 for 6, and the Mario Douglas 1 for 15. In any case, the Patriots were able to pull out the dub, winning 15-10, getting their first win of the season, pushing the Jets to their second loss of the season. Both teams 1-2. Division rivalry, division setup, and we're going to see they're going to run it back once again later on in the season. But is it going to make the difference? Will the Jets win another game this season? Currently 1-2 with 14 games to go. What's the over under on their wins this year? Of course, like say Zach Wilson is going to get his coach fired or have an Aaron Rodgers help call plays. So I don't think that Zach Wilson is going to get Coach Salah fired, right? However, because I don't even think that Coach Salah was the one who was like, hey, I want him. Like, take in consideration, right? He said coaches. We talk about coaches, right? How many coaches do you really believe are really making the shots and calling up, getting these players in which they got? I'm very sure there's a conversation, especially when they talk to GMs, when they're looking at even bringing in a talent or getting rid of talent, right? So in this case, I don't know how much Robert Salah is on Zach Wilson. Like, he continues to say that we're not going to do this, that, the third with Zach. But is that him talking, or is that what his GM is basically saying we're not new? And he's just basically echoing it because he has no choice. He might have some input on the personnel, but he doesn't do the personnel. That's all on the GM. So it's kind of unfair in some instances to say that, okay, that is the coach that is keeping these players around. Because I'm very sure that, or it could be in some instances, I'm very sure that's a tight-knit circle between the president, the GM, the coach, and the owner in each aspect. Hence the reason when you look at it, some are all in the same, where sometimes it's not, in my opinion, it's not that bad for what Jerry Jones does. He cuts out the middleman. I'm the owner. I'm the GM. I have people around me that gives me insight, but I ultimately make the ultimate decision. I don't have to worry about being fired and firing myself because I own this piece. Coach, we have a conversation. You just need to take care of it, which makes sense when you look at all that type of stuff. But then, of course, it comes to a play when your owner / GM has an affinity for said players, and he is reluctant to move on from those said players that presumably everyone else is looking at like, why is he even still at the helm? Or why is he this at the third? But I'm very sure that's a conversation for another time. What's good, Donovan? Was going to Jets will win 4-5 games this year. So you're giving them 4 or 5, meaning they'll even go 4-13 or 5-12. I keep that in my mental Rolodex. We'll see how that ends up and see what it comes about. So definitely got Darren says he hate at the bad. I hate how bad the Jets ball play is, and I'm here Dolphin for that part. So it's crazy. It's unfortunate, man. It's really bad because I think every snap and attempt, Zach Wilson is like diminishing his talent or even what pool he's got. He's turning into Carson Wentz in front of our very eyes. He's taking the Jets, what everyone thought was going to be a top-notch Jets team. They had the defense. Bad the quarterback play. It's just bad, man. It's just bad. It's unfortunate. But, I mean, Zach, you're in that position, bro. You got to do what you got to do with it. It go back to going to be said, like making these people like Zach, Trey Lance, like not, you know what I'm saying? Zach was at BYU was hot that year, but the BYU hasn't been a hotbed for that type of talent in a long time. Although Taysom Hill, I mean, you can see that maybe that's what they need to turn Zach into. A Taysom Hill as player. Maybe he's better in that position. Maybe get him, get him to bulk up a little, catch him, get them to run some routes, give him the ball in certain. Maybe that's what you got. Maybe that's what we can say, that BYU is the new Swiss Army knife factory. That's what we can get with BYU. Not to say anything in reference to the Latter-day Saints, LDSs, but BYU can enact that situation. Maybe the same thing needs to be done for Trey Lance in state when it comes down to it. Like, switch it up, babe. Let's get it. You know what I'm saying? Get on the field one way or another. Use your talents as best. As we seen last night at some point, like I started back coaching again. So for the first time this year or in a long time, me and Bishop for the most part will be coaching a NFL flag team this weekend and for this season or whatever case like that. And so I'm looking at this 5-man youth and I'm looking at take what is given. That's what I'm looking at. I'm going to be running the offense. I'm looking at take what is given. And that's what we see some teams do. Take what is given. Use your talents and the strengths to your ability and go from there and just impose your will as best you can. But Donovan saying teams are going to try to tank two-time Heisman Trophy winner. So again, I don't think Caleb Williams is coming out this year, which is going to be unfortunate for someone like Shedeur Sanders. But of course, with his with the performance that he did, and it didn't go too well, Shedeur's probably not in that Heisman talk as much as he was before. Of course, we see Penix, he's up and coming, and a couple of other players to take that. So Caleb got some competition this year, just the truth be told. May, I think, is falling off. But Caleb Williams has competition. So at the beginning of the year, I thought he might have been the 2-time Heisman Trophy winner back-to-back, but I don't know now because he is heavy, hot competition in his conference, let alone the whole NFL college football scene. So it's going to be a little harder for him to walk away with that Heisman Trophy, and his numbers aren't looking like that, especially when they was beating teams and they go and they pull them in the fourth quarter or the halfway through the fourth, which I think is diminishing and hurting his chances when other people are running them all the way through. So from what you was just talking about, Donovan, I think Caleb is probably not going to walk away with the Heisman. I'd be surprised if he could do it. I was on that same talk at the beginning, but I don't think he's going to. Just for my man Darren, let's talk about them Dolphins real quick. Miami Dolphins blitzed the Denver Broncos. I don't know what to say. Russ. Peyton, Russ. Whatever combination you would put those names in. What's good? What are y'all really doing down there in Denver? You got Jerry Jeudy. You got Mims the second. And you got an 0-3 record to go along with that. Was it because y'all ran into the Miami Dolphins at the wrong time? Or was it the Miami Dolphins did exactly what I'm talking about doing, taking advantage of what is given to us? Miami Dolphins, Denver Broncos, 70 points scored in an NFL game, the third largest points scored in NFL history. And we're talking about over 75 years of experience. Said Peyton is McCarthy with a PR, with a better PR staff. Don says Russell Wilson done or can he save the Jets? You know what, Donovan? That would be interesting. He'll have a better chance there if they was to trade for that and just go ahead and then whomever's the backup in Denver rock with it, or for Peyton to go out and try to get his quarterback or what quarterback he want or whatever case it is. But something needs to change already. 50-point deficit. Even when they tried to take out all the players that was in Miami, it didn't work. The backups was running them amok on him. Tua Tagovailoa, 23 for 26, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, not a single sack. He didn't get touch. Mike White even got in and spun. And Mike White, think about it. We're talking about Mike White that was playing with the Jets last year, who had a couple of bright spots with the Jets. He got in 2 for 2 for 67 yards and a touchdown. Russell Wilson, 23 for 38 for 306 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack for 12 yards. Miami's rushing attack. Davon Arcane, 18 carries for 203 yards. That math don't even math right. 2 touchdowns. What were you guys doing? He was almost a 10-yard average running back. Every time he touched the ball, it was the first down. Raheem Mostert, 13 carries for 82 yards, 3 touchdowns. Again, not mathing right. Where was the defense? Chris Brooks, 9 for 66. You almost had 300-yard rushers in one game off an average of 10 carries apiece. Didn't get there, but it was hella close. Receiving Tyreek Hill, 9 receptions for 157 yards and a touchdown. Robbie Chosen, formerly of Robbie Anderson, 1 reception for 68 yards and a touchdown. Raheem Mostert, 7 touches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Berrios, 2 receptions for 33 yards. Kane, 4 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. Durham Smythe, 1 touch for 15 yards, and River Craft, 1 reception for 13 yards. They just had their way with him up and down the field. For the Denver Broncos, of course, Javonte Williams carried the ball 11 times, 42 yards. Jaleel McLaughlin, 5 for 15. Samaje Perine, 3 for 9. And then, of course, Marvin Williams, 1 in the round for 3 yards. Courtland Sutton, 8 receptions and 91 yards. 1 touchdown on the day. Jerry Jeudy, 5 receptions for 81 yards. Marvin Mills Jr., 3 receptions for 73 yards. He did not see the end zone this week as he did last week. Javonte Williams was 2 for 23. Samaje Perine, 2 for 15. Brandon Johnson, 2 for 12. And then, of course, Nate Atkins ended it out with 1 reception for 11 yards. What is Denver going to do? Just like Donovan made this suggestion. At this point, hey, Denver, get on the phone with New York. Hey, what can we do? What y'all trying to do? But so we know one thing is not going to happen. Is definitely not going to bring in Russell Wilson or anything like that. Because in-state is New York has to take into consideration they still have Aaron Rodgers under contract. So bringing in any quarterback of, a high caliber quarterback that given the opportunity to bring in a high caliber quarterback isn't wise unless they can get him on a 1-year deal, because the expectation is that Aaron Rodgers is going to be back. They can't they can't do it like San Francisco did a couple years ago, when it just so happened that we was able to have 3 potential quarterbacks, and then 2 of them went down. We had a third one that is basically was a star in waiting, and we was able to implement them. Or the same thing like when they did with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick for that short bit of time. You don't get that opportunity always. So I don't know what has happened. And so what this is doing is a couple of things, right? What it is it's basically, in my opinion, putting Sean Payton and Russell Westbrook to bed early. But I think additionally what it's doing is giving a false sense of security and the illusion to what we have in the Miami Dolphins. Now, I have been on this show. We have been doing this show a little over a year and a half now. And in that time frame, I have spoke immensely about the fact that I think Tua Tagovailoa is a problem. It could be a problem. When he got Tyreek Hill, it even added to that. And not to mention the fact that Jalen Waddle, the second top receiver, wasn't even around. Like, what did they start? They think that the Miami Dolphins was going to be hobbled due to the fact that Waddle wasn't there, and they just like, hey, we ain't got nothing to worry about. What happened? Do I start to feel a certain type of way because this is what the San Francisco 49ers could have been if it wasn't for the fact of the Dolphins poaching coaches? Where are we at now? Does Miami go undefeated? If they go undefeated, does 1972 Dolphins still pop bottles, or does it count because it's still in their organization, or do they both basically get to turn up? Although let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We know that the Miami Dolphins are not going to be an undefeated team throughout. They're not going to run through and go 21-0 or anything like that. That's not even in the cards, I believe. Not for the Dolphins, at least. But stranger things have happened. Dolphins currently 3-0 on the season. The Broncos 0-3. Again, I say it throughout the show. 3 teams remain. Does anyone fall off this coming weekend? Who's next up? Where could we go from here? So we know about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's out with his injury. The ranting of Joe Namath, or basically you could say that's another situation to where let's go. Let's take it to the boot, baby. New Orleans Saints faced off against the Green Bay Packers. Another game in which we thought for sure was going to probably be an undefeated team, staying undefeated for the most part. As you know, I chose the New Orleans Saints to be the NFC South's division champion. It's not looking too well now. Let's play the pincher, right? So how would you feel if I spotted you an 18-point lead? And with said 18-point lead, all you had to do was go and play another half, maybe a couple of field goals here and there to keep us afloat and defense play ball to get the victory. Derek Carr left the game with a shoulder injury in the second half, just before the second half. 13 of 18 for 103 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 sacks for 21 yards, in which one of those 3 sacks was the hit that gave the injury. Jameson Wilson came in 2 for 16, which doesn't sound bad. Another 101 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions. Evidently, he ain't put them in position to be able to get a field goal either. Kendrick Miller, 9 carries for 34 yards. Tony Jones Jr., 8 carries for 31 yards himself. Taysom Hill, 4 rushes for 12. And Rashid Shaheed, 1 rush himself. Chris Olave, 8 receptions for 104 yards. Michael Thomas, 6 receptions for 50 yards himself. Tony Jones Jr., 4 for 21. Jawan Johnson was 2 for 12, and Taysom Hill was 1 for 9. Jimmy Graham did get a touchdown and a reception, 1 reception and touchdown for 8 yards in the game. But Jordan Love was able to take care of business, even though he was 50% on the day, 22 of 44 for 259, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack for 14 yards. 9 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Dillon in replacement of Aaron Jones, 11 carries for 33 yards. Keaton Nixon, 1 for 11. And Emmanuel Wilson, 2 for 6. Receiving-wise, Romeo Dobbs with another good game, 5 receptions for 73 yards, 1 touchdown, 12 targets. Jalen Reed was 3 for 63. Luke Musgrave pulled in 6 receptions for 49 yards. Devontae Wicks, 4 for 44 himself, and Patrick Taylor, 3 for 23 on the day. In state, Jameis Wilson and the crew allowed the Packers, or maybe the Packers forced it, 18 points in the second half, to where now the Packers are 2-1. The Saints are 2-1. The Saints take an L, and it's expected possibly that this coming week, Derek Carr is not going to be available as he covers it's able to AC joint in the shoulder. So what happened, Saints? What happened? Where are my Saint fans at? What happened exactly to your lead? Is Jameis Winston that bad? Is he can't even come in a relief effort to take care of business? Is it that bad? Mm, mm, mm. We get to see them next week, of course. I don't know. Next up, Dallas Cowboys. What happened, Dallas Cowboys? I got one better to top y'all, but what happened, Dallas Cowboys? What was expected? Mine be broke workers versus Broncos. My Bucks lost to the Eagles, but it's all good. What's good, Leslie? Dak Prescott versus Joshua Dobbs. Any other time, if we would have said that, what would have been the expectancy? What we all would have had to deducted the same outcome is that the Dallas Cowboys are going to run rampant over said team. However, not the case. Game-winning quarterback Joshua Dobbs, 17 for 21, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 sacks taken. James Conner, 14 carries for 98 yards and a touchdown. Joshua Dobbs, 6 carries himself for 55 yards. Ramondre Jones got 3 carries for 54 yards. Keontae Ingram was 5 for 13. And then, of course, Iman DeMarcado, 2 for 2 as far as rushing go. When it comes to the receiving, Michael Wilson was 2 for 86 on the day. Marquise Brown, 5 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. James Conner was 2 for 18. Keontae Ingram, 1 for 8. Ramondre Jones was 4 for 8. And Zach Ertz, 2 for 6. Enough to get the 28 points, of course. When you look at it, 2 rushes, 3, and an interception. A pick 6, I'm sorry. Dak Prescott, 25 for 40 for 249, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks for 18 yards. Why the regression, Dak? What happened exactly? Tony Pollard, 23 carries for 122 yards, doing what his best rendition of to keep them afloat. Dak was 3 for 24. Rico Dowdle was 4 for 21, and then Hunter Luke was 1 for 9 in carries. Michael Gallup starting to get back to being the favorite target, not 8 for 62. Correction, 6 for 92 yards. CeeDee Lamb 4 for 53. Jake Ferguson 4 for 48. Rico Dowd 3 for 25 and a touchdown. Brandon Cooks 2 for 17. Peyton Hendershot and Hunter Luke both 2 or 1 interception apiece. 13 for Hunter. 12 for Hunter, 3 for Henderson, and an L for the Cowboys. Did anyone see that coming? 16-28 game Cardinals. It's getting to that point to where is it already at that point in the year to where what we thought isn't what we really thought, and it's going to be teams. It's any given Sunday, we understand. But some games you look at, you just expect teams to take care of business. One particular, this next one that I said, up the Cowboys. The Jacksonville Jaguars hosted the Houston Texans, right? It's a game I play, right, called Pick 9. Every so often I play this game. In Pick 9, what happens is all you have to do is pick 9 winners, and you can be perceived as a winner. Whatever the pot is, that pot ends up winning. That person could end up winning the pot potentially. All you need is 9 picks. So I'm sure everyone picked the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I won't say that, Donovan. I think CD has some upside. It's just things go wrong. I think he has upside. I won't say that yet. So everyone picked the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm sure, to beat the Texans. Because you don't see it's Texans as that team yet that's going to enact that situation where you got a second think. And you see the Jacksonville Jaguars are the up-and-coming squad. Calvin Ridley, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. You just see it. You believe it. Trevor Lawrence was 27 for 40 for 279 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, no sacks. Cesar Beathard got in 22 for 2 for 9 yards. Of course, a total 29 for 42, 288, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The rushing attack from the Jaguars. 19 carries for 88 yards. Trevor Lawrence got 12 of those yards as well. Tank Bisbee, 10 yards. Ernest Johnson, 3 carries for 6 yards. Receiving wise, Even Evan Ingram, up and coming tight end, 7 receptions for 67 yards. Christian Kirk finally got back on the ball, 4 receptions, 54 yards, 1 touchdown. Travis Etienne, 4 for 50. Jamal Agnew was 4 for 49. Calvin Ridley, 3 for 40 after a monster game last night. Tim Jones was 2 for 11. Vector Strange, 2 for 7. And then, of course, Ernest Johnson, 2 for 6. Jaron gets in the chat. Trevor Lawrence is overrated. Is that a fair assumption now? Is that something fair we can say? Trevor Lawrence is not who we think he is. Did that comeback last year in the playoffs propel him to heights in which he was not prepared to be thrown into? Was it all the wool pulled over our eyes? CJ Stroud, 20 for 30 on 280 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no sacks. Devin Singletary picked up total the rock 9 times for 41 yards. Damian Pierce, 14 for 31 yards with a touchdown. And CJ Stroud, 3 for 14 on his own recognizance. Tank Dell, 5 receptions, 144 yards, 1 touchdown. So at this particular time, I was looking at this game and I was talking to Bishop because we was discussing some stuff for this coming weekend. And his thing was, who are these players that are getting the ball basically taken away from fantasy players? Tank Dell, like I said, 5 receptions for 144 yards, 1 touchdown. Nick Collins, 2 for 34. Robert Woods was 3 for 34 himself. Damian Pierce was 3 for 28. Brevin Jordan, 2 receptions for 13 yards and a touchdown. John Mechie III was 2 for 13. Dalton Schultz was 1 for 8. Of course, Devin Singletary closed out with 2 for 4. In-state, the Texans with a 20-point win, 17-37. A defense-laden game. Did we see it coming? No, we didn't. Because if you sit up and ask me about who I was picking Jacksonville. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, going along with the Jaguars, sunshine, the waving hair when he comes off the field and takes his helmet off. It's mesmerizing. Evidently, the defense wasn't mesmerized by it. The Houston Texans wasn't mesmerized by it. His team was mesmerized, honestly, by it because they didn't put up that much of a fight. Texas get the W, gets the first win of the season, and are taken from the ranks of the beaten or the offers. Is this a stepping stool for the Texans to propel themselves to be able to be engaging? Is D'Amico Ryans the coach that is going to be turning them around? Is CJ Stroud really the true top quarterback drafted in the top 5 positions this year? Were we looking left at Josh Jacobs? Anthony Richardson when we should be looking right at CJ Stroud? It remains to be seen. But it's coming. We're going to get to talk about it sooner or later. So a couple more games in which I want to talk about before I get ready to get out of here, right? Of course, the 2 games from last night, that was the most prevalent. But I want to go back in and let's have a conversation about this one particular team. The one particular team in which I talk about, of course, it was other games in which I'll talk about real quick. The Titans were able to got handled by the Cleveland Browns 27-3. Detroit Lions on track again, taking care of business against the Falcons, in which was going to be a battle in which I initially thought, but then just knew that that grit and grind in Detroit was going to be a little too much. They take care of business 20-6. Who else? Washington Commanders got manhandled by the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if that's what is to come, or is it was just the fact that the Bills came out with a little more of prep done and ready to play. But 37-3 was that score. The Baltimore Colts. Tucker was money. Big Trust did not show up. Missed the 61-yard field goal. He holds the record for 63 yards. His 61-yard field goal was at least 2 yards short. In-state, the Colts and Gardner Minshew walk away with the dub 22-19 over Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. The Seattle Seahawks was victorious 37-27 over the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers this week did not play number one draft pick Bryce Young. So we see how that comes up next week. But the game which I want to talk about before I get to last night's games, of course, the Chicago Bears and the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, first and foremost, we did not expect the Bears to be victorious over the Chiefs. No different than like when we was talking to Maurice earlier, then we had the discussion. We don't think that the Minnesota Vikings at this juncture are going to be victorious 2 weeks from now versus the Kansas City Chiefs as well. But it's time, and you say anything can happen for the most part in the next couple of days. But what is wrong with the Bears? I really started to wonder, like at one point I was really big on Justin Fields. I was like, I wish the 49ers would have took Justin Fields as opposed to taking Trey Lance. But at this point, is Fields no different than Lance? Would Lance have been a better pick right now? And would he be a better pick choice in Chicago right now? Justin Fields, 11 for 22, 99 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 3 sacks. Is that on Minnesota? I mean, a correction. Is that on Chicago? Is that on Justin? Whom is that on? Patrick Mahomes, 24 for 33, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, no sacks. Blaine Gabbert got in 3 of 5, 31 receptions, 31 yards, 2 interceptions. Blaine, you should be ashamed of yourself. Isaiah Pacheco, 16 carries for 62 yards with the touchdown. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 15 carries, 55 yards, and the touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 28 yards on carrying. And Jerick McKinnon was 2 for 9. Passing for Kansas City, Travis Kelce, 7 receptions, 69 yards, 1 touchdown, and a cameo with Taylor Swift as they walked off after the game. Rashee Rice gets it in. Rookie 5 receptions for 59 yards. Justin Watson was 2 receptions for 51 yards himself. Sky Moore, 4 receptions for 42 yards. Valdez Scantling was 1 for 37. Isaiah Pacheco, 2 for 16. Noah Gray was 1 for 9. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 1 for 2. Jerick McKinnon, 3 receptions, 19 yards, and 2 touchdowns for the game in which the Bears were pummeled 41-10. Justin Fields, 11 carries for 47 yards in the game. Rashawn Johnson, 8 for 38. Khalil Herbert, the number one back, but didn't look like it, 7 for 31. I know DJ Moore is really thinking about the situation now. It's like I could still be in Carolina at this particular juncture. DJ Moore, 3 receptions for 41 yards and the touchdown. Cole Kmet, 2 for 22. Chase Claypool, 1 reception off 4 targets for 15 yards. Rashawn Johnson was 2 for 11. Tyler Scott, 1 for 6. Is Chase Claypool not a good pickup? Darnell Mooney, he didn't even get, he had 1 target. What is up with Chicago? Yet again, what is the deal with Chicago? Mike, where you at? What is cracking in Chicago? Where are the Chicago Bears fans at? I don't get it. What is the potential answer? Is it Eberflus and his coaching style? Is it just Justin Fields wasn't the person? Is it the person? What exactly is going on with Chicago? I would ask you again. We want answers. Chicago Bears fans, you have 24 hours to respond. We got to figure this out. Last night, a couple of games. So this is where it starts to meet, right? So I don't know where I should go with this. So I'll go with, of course, one of the 3 remaining. Sorry, 1 second. So last night, Philadelphia Eagles faced off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And again, I will be the first to sit up and say that I did not believe in the Buccaneers initially because I did not believe in Baker Mayfield. I stayed away from anything remotely that had to be with Buccaneers because I just wasn't. I didn't think Mayfield was that dude. Which I'm not saying he is, but he has been serviceable for the most part to a degree. Last night, not too hot, I guess, when you look at it. He was 15 for 25, 146 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 2 sacks. He carried the ball once for 2 yards. Rashad White, 14 carries for 38 yards himself. And Sean Tucker was 2 for 11. Rashad, I need you to do better. Mike Evans doing what he does, 5 receptions for 60 yards, 1 touchdown. Chris Godwin, 3 for 32 himself. Rashad White, additionally 3 for 24. Kay Oden, 1 for 16. Trey Palmer, 1 for 8. And Devin Tompkins, 2 for 6. Now, when you look at Jalen Hurts, as reported, was having flu-like symptoms. Wasn't feeling too well. In which I don't know if you can tell or not in the game. He did, however, 2 for 37, 207 yards, 77 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 1 sack for 6 yards. Maybe the flu-like symptoms put him in a position to where he made some unjust calls to get the 2 interceptions. DeAndre Swift, 16 carries, 130 yards. DeAndre Swift is looking like he is the starting back for the Philadelphia Eagles. Kenneth Gainwell back, 14 carries for 43 yards. Not bad. Justin Hurts, 10 carries for 28 yards. Receiving wise, I guess A.J. Brown got his way in practice, and they was like, we're going to get you the ball more. He came out there. Although no touchdown, he did get 9 receptions, 131 yards. Zacchaeus was 2 for 58 with a touchdown. Dallas Goedert was 5 for 41. Devontae Smith, 4 receptions for 28 yards. DeAndre Swift was 1 for 8. Stowe was 1 for 6. And Lassie Gainwell was 1 for 5. In-state, the Philadelphia Eagles handle the Buccaneers by the score of 25-11, moving on to continue to stay in the ranks of unbeaten, rival their the counterpart, the 49ers, who are currently still undefeated 3-0 as well, and pushing the Buccaneers to their first loss of the season. Will this loss set back the Buccaneers? Will we start to see more mortal-like engagements, and they stay and continue to be, or will they continue to be engaging? Of course, being in the NFC South, amongst everyone now there, it has at least one loss, being the Falcons. All of them at one point were all undefeated. Now they all have one loss. Falcons, Falcons, Cardinals. Well, they have 2 losses: Falcons, Cardinals, Buccaneers, and that and the Saints. And of course, the last game. So this game, the reason I say this game for last is I need to get out my frustrations. Because when I look at it, as we all know, we play fantasy football on First Formation and a couple of other things. So I play fantasy football. And I went through hell and hot water to pick up and drop and get a certain player that showed some promise. Now, because I work now, I was at work late yesterday. I didn't get in to see the game until like just after halftime, which this game being the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals game. In this particular game, I had a couple of players that were on my fantasy squad, in which both did, I ain't gonna say atrocious, but it wasn't what I thought, in which I couldn't make up with some of the points in which I had been down because of some of the explosions players had over the course of the weekend. So not necessarily these players' fault, but of course, one player did it's okay, and the other player was like, I didn't get it. The Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford, 18 for 33, 269 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 6 sacks for 48 yards. 6 sacks. So maybe this could be a reason why what I'm really teasing about is later on. Kyron Williams, 10 carries for 38 yards. Tutu Atwell, 1 carry for 22 yards. Matthew Stafford had a carry for 7 yards himself, and the Van Jefferson 1 for 4. Now, this is where it gets a little, I'm having the trouble at, right? Puka Nuka, who was the darling for the Los Angeles Rams last night, 5 receptions, 72 yards, no touchdowns. So yet he has no touchdowns in 2 games, right? In the first 2 games, he was the go-to receiver, possession receiver. He was a go-to possession receiver, right? Let me continue before I go back. Tyler Higbee, 5 for 71 last night. Tutu Atwell was 4 receptions for 50 yards, 1 touchdown. Van Jefferson was 1 reception, 46 yards. Kyron Williams, again, 2 receptions for 27 yards. And Ben Schroenick was 1 reception for 3 yards. Now, running back up that chain, Puka Nuka, 5 receptions, 72 yards. Last week against the San Francisco 49ers, he had 15 receptions. He's dumbed down to 10 receptions here. So as I said, but watch the game from my perspective during this time frame, as of last night, and when I sat down and looked at the game and cut the game on, I seen Matthew Stafford throw 4 consecutive passes to Tutu Atwell, and not a single one of those receptions connected. Now, mind you, in the course of him throwing these receptions to Tutu, there were other instances, even whether he was getting sacked, incompletes, and all that. Now, during this time frame, while I'm watching, because I'm looking for number 17 and wondering, like, why is number 17 not getting the ball? You had times where he was coming. Evidently, he was supposed to be a decoy. He's coming off the ball late and then breaking out. But of course, that time, Stafford was being ran down or being sacked. Other time, now it was a couple of times in which I seen that Puka should have been the target because he was open. He could have set up and turned up the field. But why are you going down the field to Tutu? And not only going down the field to Tutu, you're also throwing the ball out of bounds. Not understanding what was going on in Matthew Stafford's mindset yesterday. Not to mention, not to understand what was going on in Sean McVay's mindset, because he was doing stuff like, y'all's down by a touchdown with 6 minutes left in the game. If 4th and 3 or 4th and 8, and you punt the ball away. And what you did that tell you, put you in position like you was just on it. Nuka finally got his first reception while I was watching on the game, in which he unfortunately fell before the goal line, and they was on the 3-yard line, and then Tutu Atwell comes in motion and comes off the end and veers out. Nuka takes his man inside. Tutu's doesn't go with him, and he scores. Should have been Puka's, but especially when he got us down there, got us disregard that last statement. Y'all down there, but it didn't happen. Touchdown. Now it's gives them 16 points, and then we go from there. Joe Burrow decided that he was going to play last night and said it was the risk of him getting further injured was less than the risk of going 0-3. What? Come on, Joey Burr. Stop playing, fam. Now, don't get me twisted. Don't get it twisted. I'm appreciative that you played, because if you hadn't played, I had no quarterback to throw into my system to set up a quarterback, since you are the starting quarterback for one of my fantasy leagues, or a couple of them, I think. So basically, if you hadn't played, you would have messed me over. Joey Burrow last night, 26 of 49 for 259 yards and 1 interception, 2 sacks, no touchdowns whatsoever. Joe Mixon, 19 carries for 65 yards in the touchdown. Trevion Williams, 1 reception, 1 carry for 4 yards. Joe Burrow was 3 carries, -2 yards in those carries. Jamar Chase finally gets a decent game, 12 receptions for 141 yards on 15 targets, no touchdown. Tyler Boyd, 3 for 39 yards receiving. Tanner Hudson was 2 for 30 receiving. T. Higgins, 2 for 21 himself. And Mike Wilcox was 2 for 10 in which in-state the victors go to the Bengals 16-19 over the Rams. I still don't understand what happened. Why is Joey having problems? That's 3 games when he has had atrocious numbers. Why didn't Nuka get the ball? This is supposed to be a grooming process for him to when Cooper Kupp comes back. You have 2 possession receivers that can get you yards. You're supposed to be showing that Nuka is a problem. Atwell is a problem too. I like Atwell. But Nuka is your person, I think. He's the problem. And then when you get Cooper Kupp, it's like, I have a plethora of receivers to go through, an arsenal of receivers to sit up at my disposal for a gunslinging Matthew Stafford. But how do we get in this? Was the defense doing it? Take in consideration, they was on him. He was like sacked left and right. One time he did get a good ball off, but of course, he was down by contact. His knee had hit, and when he was throwing it, and it didn't fare well for him. But in-state is, why didn't Nuka get the ball last night? Let's think about that, Rams, because I have him in. And I see you got Tutu. So you would have got Nuka had I. But you know what's funny, Aaron, is I don't think I would have even got Tutu because I wasn't checking for Tutu yet. I looked at Tutu's numbers later and then I got him. So yes, but like I said, just like you said, both of them actually scored the same amount last night. Well, Nuka had 12 points last night. So, which isn't bad, but I needed more because I just needed Nuka to do more. But definitely, like when you look at it, like I think so. You probably got had our waivers been switched, but it wouldn't have been switched because you have a better record than me, 2-0, and I'm 1-1. So I got Nuka. So if I went after Atwell, I would have got Atwell, and then if you had went for Nuka, he would have been left to you. But it's just one of those things. I don't understand why they went away from what was working. They almost pulled out a dub against San Francisco for okay. Yeah, Atwell, that was a wise thing. I did pick up Atwell in another league in which I got and but I didn't play Atwell last night. So now there we have it. I just don't get it. Like, why go away? Especially I see Nuka's going to be him and Atwell actually both are going to be. I think it was just more so that Atwell is more of a deeper threat, was a deep threat, but he kept on trying to get into him and he couldn't. It's like they was looking for it. Britt was watching Nuka here and there, and then they got switched off. So it was going back and forth, but we got to do better at Rams because I have him in my lineup again, and I need him to have one of those 49er type games again, 30-point fantasy pickup. Because when I don't have it and he does, I'm gonna be highly upset. But in any case, I gotta get up out of here so I can get start to getting ready to get set so I can get to these people's job that pays me. Look forward to potentially tapping in with y'all. Tomorrow, maybe I might be able to. It depends on what's happening. Got practice tomorrow, so I got to sit up and do my game plan and got to put together a little a playbook for these young superstars going out for our game on Sunday. So of course, Monday I'll be coming back in here to talk on that. Also been officiating, so that's been something. Seeing it's some crazy stuff you be seeing out here with these kids and these prep games. But in any case, y'all know what it is. Y'all know where to find this. For the most part, when you hear that notification go off, the only way you hear the notification, if you even liking, you could go like and subscribe to First Formation on YouTube. Additionally, First Formation here or just when I tap in. But if you get the notifications, then we're up. Greatly appreciate y'all tapping in this morning. Look forward to seeing y'all the next morning, which we're here. We're gonna get back on a steady schedule soon enough. I just gotta sit up and play some stuff out and get back and setting up setting up my spot and stuff like that. So more to come. Greatly appreciate y'all. Y'all know what it is. Trey, the commish, First Formation, out.